The Psychology of William Afton. I have a PhD in psychology, and even though I specialize in school psychology in the educational setting, I often find myself analyzing characters in the video games I play. Which brings us to today's client, the infamous William Afton, villain of FNAF, clad in fashionable purple. What goes on in that brain of his? What makes him tick? If he was in the real world, how would modern psychology assess his behavior? Let's take a look! But first, this video is sponsored by Sonic X Shadow Generations. It's time for classic and modern Sonic to reunite in a remastered collection of iconic 2D and 3D Sonic levels with an all-new standalone Shadow campaign. Sonic Generations. Sonic and friends are thrown back in time and must save their universe from chaos. Whilst there, Sonic runs into familiar characters from his past, including a younger version of himself. As dual protagonists, modern and classic Sonic must team up to defeat their enemies, save their friends, and restore their timeline to normal. Shadow Generations. As time and space have been disrupted by the mysterious Time Eater, Shadow confronts an old foe, Black Doom, and must travel through his history to face important individuals from his past one last time, obtain new dark powers, and stop Black Doom from taking over the world. Is anyone feeling nostalgic, or is it just me? If you're a fan of the old 2000 Sonic games, get ready for some familiar faces and throwbacks to iconic places and battles throughout the series. I, for one, can't wait to relive my childhood with some high-speed Sonic action. Black Doom, you're going down! Sonic X Shadow Generations is available October 25th. That's today. Make sure you click on the link in the description below for more information. And thank you, Sonic, for sponsoring this video. Yes, you too, Shadow. So here's the thing, just as a disclaimer, analyzing William Afton to the accuracy that I would like is going to be very difficult, quite frankly impossible. That's because typically when you work with a client and you want to consider diagnoses of any kind, you want a lot of information. You want rating scales, you want assessments, you want interviews, etc. You need information, personal information, information that I cannot obtain from a fictional purple man in a golden bunny suit. This is all for funsies anyways, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. We're just going to go with the flow, but it is an important disclaimer to get out of the way. So now let's look at the psychology behind William Afton's behavior and check out what symptomatic traits and potential diagnoses might best describe him. All right, so let's look at the games and see what we can dig up. Okay, we got a purple guy. Now what? The games don't really give us much to go off of. Our initial view of Afton comes from the FNAF 2 minigames where we bear witness to his unspeakable crimes and seemingly ultimate demise in 4K pixelated detail. But that's about all we got. He does bad things, attempts to avoid his fate by destroying the animatronic suits, becomes a bunny, and then meets his maker in Pizzeria Simulator. We're really gonna have to look outside of the games and start pulling from other pieces of FNAF media if we're gonna have any chance of analyzing this man. So let's start with the books, which I have not read. All right, look, I've always been bad at remembering FNAF lore or even keeping up with FNAF lore. I'm sorry. And it doesn't matter how many guidebooks I read or game theory videos I watch, I'm hopeless. That's okay, because I decided to reach out to my FNAF theorist friend, Rye Toast, to help me pick up the slack.
Nearly everything we know about Afton's personality comes from the books, and he comes off as unhinged. He can come off as a cheerful, approachable businessman, but we know this is just a facade he uses to manipulate others. He's a serial killer hiding in plain sight. There's evidence in the books that Afton has always leaned towards the more crazy side, given the array of mechanical parts and journals filled with raving paranoia found in his house. By current day, Afton comes off as more unhinged, gleefully prancing around in the Spring Bonnie suit, and at times he refuses to speak unless wearing it.
The FNAF movie is helpful because we actually get to see William Afton, played by the incomparable Shaggy, Matthew Lillard. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but there's enough here to at least give us a visual of some of his behaviors. In his debut scene posing as Steve Raglan, he gives us a cold, calculating, very intelligent feel. There's a lack of emotion in general, and he only shows a hint of excitement when reminiscing about Freddy's Pizzeria, and when he's talking about himself as a sentimental guy. Oh, William, you silly narcissist. Even if you weren't a FNAF fan, anyone watching the movie would absolutely know that this man is scheming, all thanks to Lillard's stellar acting skills. The mask finally comes off in the climax of the movie, and oh my god, he's the bad guy! That was sarcasm, by the way, but it's nice to actually see an interpretation of Afton with his mask off, showing how truly sadistic and twisted he really is. So with all of these descriptors in mind, I think it's pretty safe to say that William Afton is a psychopath. In today's society, we kind of just throw around the terms psychopath and sociopath pretty willy-nilly, and although they both share the same trait of not showing remorse, there are distinct differences between the two. Sociopaths have more aggressive and reckless behavior. They can be impulsive, disorganized, and might end up incarcerated just for repeated violations of the law. They can experience emotion, albeit on a more fleeting or superficial level, and in some cases they do have the ability to feel guilt and empathy. Psychopaths, on the other hand, pretend to feel emotion, but typically are unable to create real, meaningful, emotional relationships with others. They can engage in manipulative, dishonest behavior to get what they want, and they actually tend to be pretty successful. They're good pretenders who blend in with society. Now, that all being said, neither sociopathy or psychopathy are actual diagnosable conditions. Instead, they're really a set of traits that describe someone's behavior. However, both can be described under the diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder. Time to break out the DSM-5! Basically, it's a manual for assessing and diagnosing all recognized mental disorders. Antisocial personality disorder is a mental disorder characterized by the following: a pervasive pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others occurring since age 15 years, as indicated by 3 or more of the following. Then you have a list of 7 items there. Under criterion A, I do see Afton potentially meeting numbers 1, 2, and 7. The individual is at least age 18 years, there's evidence of conduct disorder with onset before age 15 years, and the occurrence of antisocial behavior is not exclusively during the course of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Sociopathy is the one that's more in line with the requirements of ASPD, while psychopathy is more of a set of behaviors that fit within ASPD. And there's our William Afton, Psychopath! The only thing missing for my ASPD theory here is William's childhood history. It bothers me so much that I don't have that. Normally, I would get this through interviews, questionnaires, etc., but like I said earlier, these are all things that I cannot do with a fictional, purple pixelated man. And that makes it difficult to confirm letter C of the criterion, evidence of conduct disorder with onset before age 15. Hey, Rye, we got anything on his childhood?
Nope.
That's what I thought. Yet another reason why a full analysis of William is difficult. That missing history could hold a lot of useful information. Hey, Scott, can we please get a game about William's childhood? FNAF 11, before Springtrap, or FNAF 14, William's Teddy trauma or something. I don't know. Just give me a villainous origin story. Conduct disorder is very broad when it comes to its symptomology, and it can range from aggressive behaviors to vandalism to deceit, serious rule violations, etc. You can have different specifications like childhood and adult onset, and it comes in mild, medium, and hot. So let's say for argument's sake that we did have more information at our disposal and that there was no evidence of conduct disorder when he was a child or adolescent and therefore not meeting the requirements for ASPD. Then we could still look at a related disorder, maybe borderline personality disorder or narcissistic disorder, and look at those stipulations. Maybe a tragedy during his early adulthood that caused a drastic change in his behavior. But just for the sake of the exercise, I'm gonna go with my gut here. I have no evidence to suggest that he didn't have symptomology of conduct disorder when he was a child or adolescent, and part of me really thinks that he did at one point, so we're just gonna roll with it. Psychopath! But what about William's motives? That's an important part of this, right? Why did he do what he did? Why does he do what he does? Did he do what? Because here's the thing. You can have two people engage in the same behavior, but the function of that behavior is different. The motives why the behavior is different. William is a murderer. Why? And I don't like the cop-out of, well, he's a psychopath, he's just crazy, that's what psychopaths do. Even psychopaths have reasons, they're just not very good ones. And usually that involves satisfying their own selfish desires. So what do we actually have on his motives?
Not really that much, but we do have a few speculations on some of the murders. There are no confirmed motivations for William Afton's crimes, and it's actually a hot debate in the FNAF fandom. Some people believe that he killed Charlotte out of revenge for his own son dying due to the Fredbear animatronic. Others speculate that Charlotte might have seen the missing child incident. More theories suggest that William knew about Remnant and was trying to experiment using it. However, we do have some evidence that William methodically and specifically built a way to kidnap children in the Funtime animatronics, which were perfect for child kidnapping, so it's unlikely that his actions were on a whim. He even warned Elizabeth to stay away from Circus Baby. He knew how dangerous it was for children. But basically, this is all to say that there's nothing concrete when it comes to William Afton's motivations, and we're oftentimes left with more questions than answers, just a lot of game theories.
Okay, so no confirmed motive. That's not very helpful. But I'll run with the speculation that we do have about his crimes. The whole idea of William creating the Funtime animatronics with the ability to kidnap children, I still see that fitting under ASPD. But I really just want to confirm the reason why. As far as Charlotte goes, if Afton's reasoning was truly about revenge, he could still fit under ASPD, but you could have other diagnoses that might fit. Maybe post-traumatic embitterment disorder, that could work? I don't know, man. It just feels like there should be more here.
Well, we could cover his more supernatural beliefs. In the books, Afton sees the animatronics as an evolution to life, and he believes that his fusion with the springtrap suit only made him a better version of himself. It's commonly seen throughout the FNAF franchise that William is obsessed with the idea of immortality and how to achieve it. Now, it's only speculation, but there is subtext to suggest that William is terrified of hell and will do anything to avoid going to it. But the one thing we know for sure is he wants to figure out the secret to life and harness it.
You know what that sounds like to me? Delusion! To keep it simple, these are false beliefs outside of someone's cultural influences that are pretty much known to be false by everyone else. I think it's important to highlight the outside of someone's cultural influences bit because we're talking about a mental disorder here, not the influences of things like religion that might run counter to agnostic or atheistic beliefs. There are no Greek gods on Mount Olympus, but that didn't make all of ancient Greece delusional. Does that make sense? Now, if someone were to legitimately believe that they were the human incarnation of the god of thunder Zeus, then yeah, that might be delusion. Delusion can be a symptom of many different types of diagnostic disorders, but I don't think that anything akin to schizophrenia best describes William. But let's take a look at delusional disorder. The presence of one or more delusions with a duration of 1 month or longer. Criterion A for schizophrenia has never been met, basically saying that there are only delusions, not anything else like hallucinations or other schizophrenia-related symptoms. Apart from the impact of the delusions or its ramifications, functioning is not markedly impaired and behavior is not obviously bizarre or odd. If manic or major depressive episodes have occurred, these have been brief relative to the duration of the delusional periods, and then the disturbance is not attributable to the physiological effects of substance or other medical conditions. Delusions are like Baskin-Robbins ice cream flavors. They come in all sorts of flavors, such as aromatic, grandiose, jealous, persecutory, somatic, mixed if there's more than one delusional theme present, or unspecified when you're like, I don't know what that is, but it sure is delusional. If we wanted to, we could specify if the delusion was with bizarre content, the severity, various occurrences of the episodes, but I feel pretty confident in saying that Afton would fall under the grandiose type with bizarre content with a coarse specifier of continuous or unspecified, just because we don't have that history. But then again, Afton is clearly aware of the souls that inhabit the animatronics and actively interacts with them in order to achieve immortality, which might exist in the FNAF world, I think? So it begs the question, is it delusional to believe that you can control the souls of children inside Chuck E. Cheese bootleg animatronics if it's actually happening? Huh. Maybe he's not delusional. Okay, so we have a psychopath who's potentially delusional. What can we do with that? It's important to remember that a diagnosis is just a label. The way I see it, the label means nothing unless in some way it leads to the betterment of the individual who's been given the diagnosis. You could give me a label of ADHD, but if nothing changes in my life or I don't do anything with that diagnostic information, then what's the point? You could say that I have a diagnosis of floopadoop or dung mung. Labels are just words. There are people who are diagnosed who are able to take that label and then understand themselves on a deeper level and how they function. And that allows them to take more ownership of themselves and their behaviors. I don't think William would be doing that. We have a delusional psychopath here. This is a guy who needs intensive treatment in order to overturn his antisocial traits. Maybe consistent therapy, maybe medication. It's hard for me to say this is what William needs, because that's the nature of this video as I analyze a fictional purple bunny man. If Afton was real and was receiving help, then his treatment plan would be developed with his personal conversations with his psychologist, maybe psychiatrist. But given William's history and the severity of his crimes, I think there's one thing he needs for sure. Jail! Just as a quick reminder, everything we talked about in this video is just for fun, but these are real diagnoses that people experience in the real world. I cannot stress enough that it takes a qualified professional to accurately and safely provide a diagnosis and treatment plan. Please do not use any of this video's information to self-diagnose. So that's all I got on William Afton for now. I wish we had a little bit more information, but beggars can't be choosers. And I'm sure we'll be seeing Bunny Man again since he always comes back. But in the meantime, is there anyone else you want me to analyze? Someone else from the FNAF universe, or perhaps someone from a completely different franchise? If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments section down below. I had a lot of fun making this video. Writing the script was a blast. Oh, and a huge thank you to Right Toast for helping me out with the lore in this video that I am just terrible at. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description down below if you want more FNAF theory type goodness. And that's it. Get out of my house.